This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Recently, I've been catching up with some reading. I've been on the road a lot lately and been getting a little bit behind. And I'm just amazed at the number of articles that have come out around artificial intelligence. Elon Musk coming out and doom and gloom and be careful, AI is going to take over the world. But one of the questions that's kind of been rattling around in the back of my head as I've been reading and catching up on all these topics most recently is will artificial intelligence take over creativity and innovation? Is this something that we need to be worried about? Is AI going to become so good that it's going to take over basically inventing everything we need? Then what do we as humans do? Now, as humans, we have some amazing abilities to be self-aware, to think critically, creatively think, to invent, and just human ingenuity. Now, some people are out there arguing that AI is going to take this all over. And it may not always be the case that these things that we inherently thought of as traditionally or uniquely human are going to be around. Now, one of the areas that's generating a lot of topics is around creativity and imagination. Can AI be creative and can AI be imaginative? Now, I would argue there's going to be some jobs changes that are going to occur as a result to AI. But AI really becomes a tool for innovation and creativity, not a threat in my mind. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, will artificial intelligence take over creativity and innovation? And some of my thoughts, along with I'll be bringing in thoughts from some of these articles that I've written, and all the show notes and the links to all these articles will be over at killerinnovations.com, so you can check them out there. So how will AI start off to be a tool? Well, one is AI is going to change jobs inherently, and a large number of job categories are going to be affected. But even just the mundane tasks within your job, right? How much time do you spend doing administrative work? The expense report filling out, scheduling your next travel, setting an agenda, coordinating calendars, writing status reports from your innovation projects, et cetera, et cetera. So putting together presentations you've got to put to a senior executive. I would argue that in some cases, as embarrassing as it may be for some of us, that we probably spend more time on that than actually thinking and working on innovation projects. So what would happen if AI could come in and take all that off your plate, and rather than you spending 30 hours a week on the mundane tasks and 10 hours being creative, what if that flipped? What if you now had 30 hours a week to be truly creative and 10 hours where you really had to do some of that administrative stuff? Now, AI, as a result of that, will have an impact on how do you hire, right? Are you hiring to the same kinds of skill sets? Is it about, project managers and program managers knowing processes, if that can be done by an agent? Is it other kinds of things that you may want to have? Do you hire more for culture rather than technical skill sets? Because the technical nitty-gritty skill sets you may be able to procure through artificial intelligence. So you become less dependent on the technical ins and outs and more of culture and teamwork and human problem solving and those kinds of things that are inherently human. So I think AI is going to have an impact in those areas. But it really is a tool in the fact that it frees up our time to do more creative work. The other is that AI will help test and develop creative thinking. One of the challenges in creativity is to be able to exhaustively search and look at all options that are in front of you. And so, look, AI is not going to recreate the human mind. It's not going to recreate our synapses to be able to be as creative as we are. But it can look and it can challenge. Something as simple as, asking questions. Now, if you're a longtime listener, I'm a big guy on questions and asking questions and using questions to kind of trigger some additional thoughts. AI can play a role in that, in kind of being that sounding board and bringing in alternative points of views or data or information that you may not be able to see just because of the sheer volume of the data. So creativity can be that tool, not to create the idea, because that becomes really the advantage or the unique ability that humans bring to it, but it has this ability to look, test, and challenge us and actually improve our creative thinking. The other is that it'll also bring this insight, kind of tied in what I was just talking about, which is looking at data, looking at information, things that you just would not be able to see, right? Look, I read a lot. I have a number of magazines up over on Flipboard. If you want to follow me there, you can follow. I've got one on killer ideas, things that I think are pretty interesting coming down the market. I've got other ones that are up there. But Flipboard is one way I do it. Physical magazines, podcasts, etc. I'm trying to bring in a lot of information. The challenge is 2 arms, 2 legs, 24 hours a day. Certain laws of physics I can't violate. AI doesn't have those constraints. So, and actually with using some of these tools like Flipboard, letting it know what I'm interested in, so it kind of pre-filters what I have to go through, put that on steroids, make that 100 times or 1,000 times more efficient through AI tools. I can actually look at and find those dots and come up with some really creative ideas, new products, new kinds of services. AI will also speed up the creative process. We can go off and do a bunch of testing. Look, innovation is around doing experiments, and you're going to fail. You're going to do a lot of failing. Look, if you have a 90% failure rate, you are really top in the market. You may have a 95% failure rate, a 98% failure rate. So how do you do more experiments? How do you fail faster? And how do you have more failures so that you can discern where the value of the idea really is? So AI allows you to do that. You can create these kinds of really, really robust simulations and thinking through what could happen or what might be, and let AI play that role. And it really does allow for some very unique kinds of scenario, game theory kinds of looks at innovations and ideas, and how do you experiment, how do you find those failures, how do you get the learnings from those failures to make your idea better, more robust, more resilient, less brittle, all the characteristics that we look for in highly successful, high-value kinds of innovations. The other is innovation's a team sport. How do you bring a global community together of innovators, right? Then we got tools today, whether it's Zoom or whether it is, other kinds of tools that are out there, Slack, whatever. Challenge though is there's a basic assumption. And look, I've traveled for decades around the world. In my previous role, I was doing 350, 400,000 miles a year, in airplanes. That's actual miles flown. The challenge being though is business people and technology people assume English is the language. Look, there are some really smart people that are not proficient in English, and that's a deficiency. Not from the standpoint that you should assume that everybody should just speak English, but the fact is there are really smart people out there, and how do you get them to be part of your team? Things like, Facebook has done this artificial intelligence project to do natural language translation, to make it real time, to allow you to put together teams that are truly global, truly diverse, bringing all those perspectives around innovation and idea and activity, so you can get the best and brightest in the world no matter where they live, and no matter what language they speak, they can be part of that team. And it's not the struggle of trying to translate and understand each other. So AI actually is part of a tool set to allow you to have highly diverse teams and have them participate is of huge importance. So these are just some examples where innovation is going to come in and ping off those mundane tasks to free up more time, to actually help you test and validate the ideas, to gain insights into the ideas that are out there, actually help you speed up the creative process by failing faster, and dissolve the limits to global communication by things like what Facebook is doing using AI to create this near real-time language translations. So we're going to continue on the conversation today. We're looking to answer the question, will artificial intelligence take over creativity and innovation? We've just started to tip the iceberg. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break and continue our conversation. Don't forget, all the notes, everything I'm talking about will be over at killerinnovations.com. You can check out all the links to the other articles there.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Before we jump back into this segment of the show, I just want to do a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, and that is Zoom. Zoom has been a longtime sponsor, phenomenal tool for video collaboration, audio collaboration, screen sharing. It actually makes your teams happy to be able to plug in, stay connected, and be successful. So check it out. You can get a free account over at Killer Innovations. So just go over to killerinnovations.com/Zoom, and you can download an account that will allow you to collaborate with up to 50 people. So check it out. I use it every day. I am a huge fan. Plus, the team at Zoom just listens to its customers. So continue to plug in, give your feedback to them, and you will be absolutely amazed at what you'll be able to find and use for this tool. Let's pick up our conversation. Will artificial intelligence take over creativity and innovation? Now, one of the questions you're probably rattling around in your head is great, AI is going to eliminate some of these mundane jobs, but there are actually broad job categories that are going to get highly impacted. It goes with any transition. You know, look, my father and my father-in-law were involved in the steel mills in south side of Chicago, northwest Indiana, right when the whole computing information knowledge economy kicked in. They were already in their late 40s, early 50s when that transition was happening in the 70s and 80s. They got left behind. They couldn't make the transition. Here we have an opportunity for all of us to see what's coming next. It's a pretty clear path that it's coming, and for all of us to look at ourselves and say, what do I need to do to make sure that I am prepared to take advantage of this? So let's walk through these. So this was a survey that was done with what's called the Young Entrepreneurs Council. So these tend to be, Gen Xers, millennials, those that are kind of involved in this space, asking them, what are these job categories that are going to be most impacted? Number one, not in order. Don't confuse that. I'm just going to list the numbers in order. They're not in level of importance. But one, forecasting. It's really this analysis of looking out at the future. There's this view that AI can do that much, much better than humans. Customer service, the ability for AI, bots, etc., to be able to provide better customer service than a human involved in customer service. And given the rampant growth with bots and those types of things, becomes pretty interesting. Number three, education. How schools create curriculums, how they teach them, how do you personalize it, how do you create an educational program for a student of one, not a student of 30 kids in a classroom. Finance, your investment portfolio. Is the human better at looking at thousands and thousands of data points in order to know whether to buy or sell a stock or to hold on to a mutual fund versus an AI agent? Food services. Look, we're already seeing bars having robots. There's a cruise ship that now has a bot in a bar that actually will mix your drinks. The drinks are perfect every time, made pretty quickly, etc. You would argue that you don't get the nice banter chit-chat with the bartender, but Hey, it is one of those things. Personalized healthcare. Look at being able to take your symptoms plus your DNA plus other information and create medical solutions for you specifically, not try to put you into broad categories of people and try to peanut butter a solution, but create medical solutions. So highly personalized healthcare. Medical, or more like bioengineering, AI, being able to integrate AI into biological tissues or synthetic organs, those kinds of things. Pretty interesting and coming a lot faster. Logistics, the trucking industry, we've got autonomous, truck, supply chain. Do you believe Amazon just becomes the behemoth and we all are just buying our stuff and trucks are showing up at our house every morning at a set time, dropping off everything we need, food, medicines, household goods, those kinds of things. Marketing, A/B testing. Over at innovation.tools, which is our online store where you can buy books and the killer question card decks, etc., we actually use a AI agent called Kit to actually look at who comes and visits the store and actually designs and puts together advertising campaigns and marketing programs. We don't have to do anything. Every morning via Facebook Messenger, Kit communicates with us to say, hey, this is kind of what I'm seeing. Here's what I would suggest we do. Is that okay? All I do is simply say yes. It takes care of everything. Phenomenal tool. Procurement, knowing what things you need to order, when do you need to order it on time. PR, public relations. Look, press releases, writing a press release, publishing a press release, or I, in the media world, given the blog and the podcast, and where I write and where I appear, I get a flood of these press releases. If I was in that business, could I create an AI agent to take those press releases and automatically create articles? It's already happening. It's happening for financial results of public companies. Taking the quarterly report, the 10Q, which has a standard format, applying an AI agent, summarizing it, and putting together the article for major publications. It's already happening. Search. Look, the search industry is already here, right? It's already about finding information, whether you use Google or Bing or Yahoo or whatever search engine you have a preference for. These things are getting incredibly smart. And what's more important is it's becoming incredibly smart for you. So if you search for a term and I search for a term, it doesn't mean we're going to get the same results. It's trying to tailor it based on the things that they presented in the past, what we clicked on, and using that as kind of a feedback loop back into the algorithm so that it can get better and better. It gets smarter. And then security. Security, whereas, the number of attacks, cyber attacks that are occurring in networks around the world is growing at such a phenomenal rate to the point where you can't have a command and control kind of a structure. You need to create AI agents for all intents and purposes that you can embed in your systems, embed in the network, that have some autonomy to make decisions and where they can react faster, more fluidly, more definitively than the humans that are involved in this. And I've actually seen some of the AI work in security. It's coming. It's impressive. Some of it's already in products that are in the marketplace. Get ready. This is going to play a critical role. So here was an example. There were 14 in this list. I'll have the entire list over at Killer Innovation, so go over there and hop on over there, and you can take a look at that. I'll also have a link back to the original article where I got these from, so you can see all of the background pieces on this. But this is just one example of AI, where AI is going to come in and play in a whole variety of job categories that you may have thought were mundane, but critically important. So stay right there. We're going to be right back. We're going to next talk about AI with imagination. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Before we hop back into the show, I want to give another shout out to one of our sponsors, HP. HP has joined on as a sponsor for the last 6 months or so. They've been providing all kinds of new great gear that we're putting in place here in the studio. I'm now using an EliteBook 360, which is the enterprise version of their ultra-thin laptop. Let me tell you, love it, love it, love it, love it. I've also got a Z2 workstation, which is the mini workstation. I've got a Slice. That's what we run Zoom on here in the studio. Just killer. The other piece, though, that HP is really stepping up on is around security. Recognizing the privacy, the security, the integrity of technology. Look, keep in mind, think about the information you put on your laptop or even on your mobile phone or other technologies, right? It's very personal, very private. You wouldn't want that to fall into the wrong hands. And HP has really stepped up its game in the security space on everything from securing your printers to securing your devices. And let me tell you, this is an area that I just am really focusing in on, because I've been shown some things that are going out there in the wild that will just curl your hair. So if you're not focused on security, whether it's for you personally and your family, or if you're a business person for your business, check it out. Go look at the HP products. They have really taken a leadership role in this space of security. So hop on over. You can go over to killerinnovations.com/HP. Learn more about all the products and technologies they have here that they're putting in here in the studio. But also you can take you right over to HP, and you can check out everything from there. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about more than just AI. There's a question out there: is can AI have an imagination? Can they imagine what might happen and think about scenarios of the future and imagine kind of the what if? We all are, as humans, think about the future all the time. What are my kids going to be like in 5 years? And my kids, what are my grandkids going to be? What's their career? What's their life going to be? We're imagining all the possibilities, all this potential that's out there. Can AI be able to think in this way? Now, we've all seen the current interactions of AI, things like the, AlphaGo, which, was challenging the Go players, the professional Go players in a form of competition, and actually having AI win. Now, that had some unique characteristics, right? There's clearly defined rules, which allows the outcomes to be predicted very accurately in almost every circumstance. You could run all the scenarios and know exactly how that's going to happen, because there's a very defined set of rules. And there's also, they take Facebook. Facebook's created a bot that could reason through dialogue before engaging in conversation. But again, that was a fairly restricted environment. But let's face it, the real world is really complex. Rules are not so clearly defined, and unpredictable problems often arise. And let's face it, that's the definition of innovation, is that we are trying to solve problems that are hard, right? Innovation is not just about solving problems. It's about solving problems that no one else sees. No one else notices. No one else has connected the dots that there's a better way, or there's a way to solve a problem that, in most cases, customers don't even know they have the problem, right? So those are the challenges for these, for this AI. Even for the most intelligent agents, imagining these complex environments can be a long and costly process. So AI researchers are experimenting with what they are called imagination augmented agents, or I2As. This is what IBM refers to them. They were the first ones out of the gate with this. Now everybody in the AI world is kind of using this term of these imagination augmented agents, or I2As. These are neural networks that are trained to extract information from its environment that could be useful in making decisions later on. So rather than just thinking about the decision, collecting data that might have an impact on future decisions. So what do I mean by neural networks? If you're not familiar with AI, neural networks are really this ability to pump data in and actually see patterns and to learn how things are related to each other. How is A related to B, but not related to C? And you can put in large amounts of information and actually have it become better and better and better at being able to understand all these relationships. So these imagination augmented agents are really these neural networks that are being brought together, but not just about making a current decision, but looking at solving, answering questions or solving problems that they've never been asked, which is kind of a weird, blow your mind kind of way to think about it. The objective is to construct and evaluate future plans. These new agents imagine actions and outcomes and sequences before deciding which plan to execute. So it runs kind of this whole scenario piece. Let that similar to what we do, right? Look, we have, we're given a problem, that we have to go solve. And what do we do? We kind of do, whether we do it subconsciously or consciously, we look through well, here's the pros and cons if I go this way. Here's the pros and cons if I go this way. Here's the pros and cons if I go this third way. Which one seems, maybe more pros, less cons, achieves the objective? I'll try this one. In this case, though, it's actually constantly looking at and learning about what is it. And if they find something that says, wow, if you follow this path, we get to an area that nobody's currently doing, and it can reveal kind of something that would be maybe non-obvious. So they can choose how they want to imagine. They can choose the options for what they include in all these different actions. They can chain these actions together in a sequence. It's kind of letting these agents just kind of go and kind of search the entire landscape, something that we as humans would never be able to do. So now a third option allows these agents to create what I would call these imagination trees, looking at all the branches down to the final tips, coming back and then building this tree in an area or in a space or in an area that you're interested in. And therefore then applying kind of wow, if we had no constraints and we could do anything we wanted to possibly do, what could we create in the future that could really be something that is ultimately just mind-blowing, game-changing, in the space. So like I said, IBM is the first one out of the gate doing this with these imagination augmented agents. If you're not familiar with them, go check them out. They're really interesting. It's not what I would call true imagination. I started off this segment saying, can AI have an imagination? It's taken the characteristics of imagination, which is just to kind of just sit back and just think about what if or what could be. In this case, letting these agents, without the constraints of defining what they combine or what they include in the whole criteria or how they're the area that they're looking at, just kind of let the agents go. So it's kind of the characteristics of imagination. It's not replicating the human brain, us as humans being imaginative. But again, it becomes a tool of using AI to go and look at areas and be able to do exhaustive what ifs or what could be kinds of analysis that we as humans just would not have the time. We couldn't throw everybody we had into an area to go look at every possible scenario. We do kind of pre-filter and we may overlook it. This is where AI can provide and be a very interesting and phenomenal tool. Now, IBM's not the only one doing this. There's lots of them tools of areas. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next segment. But again, go off, take a look. I haven't come across any really great of these tools applied specifically to, let's say, if you're an innovation leader and you're leading an innovation team, or you're a CEO trying to bring more creativity, more innovation into your organization. But this is something that's coming. We should keep an eye on it. Could be a very valuable tool. and something that I just find that kind of satisfies my Buck Rogers kind of itch on the science fiction side to think about these agents out there. So hopefully you found that interesting. We're going to talk next about creativity and the whole process of the human portion of creativity. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
So as an innovation and creativity guy, I am a big promoter that we are all naturally creative. We're all creative. We're born this way, right? So the example I always use is think about if you've got kids, or in my case, grandkids, nieces and nephews, or you just see kids out playing. How many different ways can you see a 3-year-old take an empty toilet paper roll and turn it into some kind of a toy, right? We are naturally creative. So when I came across this most recent article over at TechCrunch by an author by the name of Elliot Gategno, Gatettegno, okay? I'll put the link over at Killer Innovations. He wrote an article titled, "Creativity is Overrated." Now, is that a clickbait title? It could be, right? But I had to read it, right? Now, the title is startling. The premise of the article is not. Elliot makes the point that non-creative roles and jobs in any team, in any organization, is just as important as the creatives. So in my case, I'm a CEO, 200 employees roughly. Plus or minus. There's a chunk of them that are R&D engineers inventing new kinds of technologies, primarily in the broadband space. And then there's a portion of the team that is, finance, HR, legal, facilities, et cetera, right? And so there's always this thing about, well, that's not my job, I'm not creative. However, in my case, I encourage everybody on my team to be creative. If you're in facilities and you're trying to solve a facilities problem because an R&D engineer needs more space for a new lab bench or new test equipment or something, get creative. It's not like we can move the outside walls of the building. We got to get creative, right? Finance. If we need to look at cash flows or payroll or budgets or whatever, let's get creative. But in this case, Elliot's argument is we've gotten into this, what I would call creative worshiping. We kind of take all the creative people in an organization, we raise them up, and we put them on a pedestal. Right? Take the I think it was 6 engineers who worked on the original Apple iPhone, right? And we just had the 10th anniversary, and there's this big celebration. And I know one of those engineers fairly well, Andy Grignon. Andy left Apple to become part of Palm, and then I did the acquisition of Palm when I was CTO at HP. And I got to know Andy really, really well. Phenomenal guy, incredibly smart. Just fantastic, right? But he'll even admit that it's just that right combination of the right people at the right time. There's so many things that could come into play. So it's not just about the individual that turns into driving it, or even just that team. If you took those same 6 people, put them back together again and gave them a challenge, would they create the next great thing? Probably not, right? So we got to be a little careful of this creative worship. That's one of the things that Elliot is pointing out, right? The article really chastises the readers not to become a creative worshiper. That creativity is the only thing that matters, etc. Look, a company full of Steve Jobs would not be a fun place to work, and it wouldn't put out anything that actually worked, right? It takes a variety of skill sets, creative and non-creatives, all coming together. Now, at the same time, and this is the thing that I've been thinking about here, and I'll probably do either a series of articles or shows on it or something around this concept that I'm rattling around in my head called cognitive exhaustion. The amount of data or facts that we have to take in before making a decision. And guess what? The number's going up. Between 1980 and 2000, the average executive took in 5 to roughly 8 pieces of facts before making a decision, right? Pretty well defined. I predict, based on what I'm already seeing and with the advent of big data, that by 2025, the executive will need to take in closer to 10,000 pieces of facts before making a decision. We're going from 5 to 8 to 10,000 by 2025. Why? This is all being driven by this big data. Knowing more about your products, your customers, your competitors, all of those little facts get rolled in. Now, they get summarized to the executive. No executive can look at 10,000 facts. But if you don't have access to the kind of data about your products, customers, and competitors, you will be at a major disadvantage. And that's where AI plays out. They can analyze, they can find those patterns, they can reveal those hidden resources and information that feeds basically our ability to invent the future. So, will artificial intelligence take over creativity and innovation? I don't think so. I think it's all about using AI as the tools, because AI has not solved the problem of how to recreate the entire process of the human brain that ties in both of our experiences, our subconscious, our ability to connect a variety of different pieces of information in some unique and creative ways. The human brain is unbelievably complex and at the same time, unbelievably impressive. So in closing, hey, you want to be part of the global innovators community? Consider becoming a member of the innovators community. It's an online Slack community of innovators from around the world across a wide range of industries coming together and sharing experiences, expertise, and challenges. And you can have conversations like we've had today here on the role of AI. Now, the community helps its members come together. So it's innovators from a variety of industries, technologies, expertise, some technical, some other roles, and you can all come together to help each other. Now, the community is replacing my previous coaching, mentoring, and mastermind activities, because at that time, I can only help 4 or 5 people at a time. And my role is my mission, what I find absolutely fulfilling, is to be able to have impact on more and more people. And more people were asking for help, and I just didn't have the bandwidth. So we're doing this as an experiment. So as a listener at Kill Innovation, special opportunity to be part of the founding members with some special benefits, but time is of the essence. So hop on over to theinnovators.community, check it out, and I'd love to have you be part of it. Check it out. So that I'm on Slack in the community each and every day, if not each and every hour. I'll post the link over to the show notes over at killinnovations.com. So thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. If there's a topic, question, or someone you think would be a great guest on the show, drop me a note, bill@killerinnovations.com. And with that, we're going to sign off, and we'll talk to you next week. You've been listening to Kill Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.